As Rishi comes back from the United States, we understand on the plane that he's terribly frustrated. Well, that's nice that he's frustrated and not nauseous. He's frustrated with Gary Lineker. And he's frustrated that the idea of his compassionate migration system has been scuppered. Well, that's because the word compassion was simply something he repeatedly added to the proposals. It's not remotely compassionate. Nor is it actually remotely practical. It's a piece of rhetoric. If we compare the British influx of migrants with that in Italy, we'll see that actually we are not overwhelmed. It's not an excessive amount of migration that we've got to the UK. Italy has had, in the last year, 103,000 migrants, of whom 77,000 have applied for asylum. Some of those will be rejected. We've had 45,000 and we can't cope because of Mrs. May's hostile environment and the go slow by the Home Office. The Home Office, incidentally, has always been a problem. It's not very well defined. And if you go back 70-odd years, you'll find there really were only two ministries in Whitehall, other than the Chancellor of the Exchequer. There was the Foreign Office and the Home Office. And what has happened is many different ministries have emerged from the orbit of the Home Office because the Home Office simply can't do its job. And I think we're finding once again the Home Office is incapable of doing its job, partly because of the imbecility of the recent Home Office ministers, the Secretaries of State, and parroting slogans and adding words like compassionate to a slogan which is already divisive and unpleasant does not make it compassionate. You know, if I say something is compassionate and then I do something abhorrent, it doesn't change what I've done. Rather like the word euthanasia. Adding the prefix EU onto a word does not make it any the less unpleasant. Euthanasia, happy death. Well, there are situations where maybe you could argue that a happy death is better than prolonging a miserable life. But you're into a very tricky bit of philosophy and ethics. Adding the prefix EU does not necessarily make things better. Adding the word compassionate does not make things better. It's simply a random word. And Gary Lineker has made it quite clear in his tweet and the publicity that tweet got that the policy put forward by Suella Braverman and endorsed by Rishi Sunak is far from compassionate. And Gary Lineker, incidentally, has given his home over to migrants who live there. So Gary Lineker is putting his money where his mouth is. Good man.